Pat Mayo Hour.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Hour. UFC Hendricks versus Thompson from Las Vegas, Nevada. This is the Pat Mayo Hour, and it is the DFS MMA Countermove and DraftKings picks and preview with an undefeated in 2016. Cody Saftik bringing the money.
All about those cash game money, Pat.
Hey, Dave, listen, they're winning in GPPs right now, too. So, but we're going to try and mainly focus on cash games. Although you're supposed to pick safer teams for cash games, in terms of MMA, specifically UFC, when it comes to DraftKings or Countermove, there's really no difference in between the teams.
Yeah, basically, if you look at it, one, you have, $50,000, one is $25,000. So they basically, it's just like you have half. The guys are basically half's expensive now, and you do a great job of pointing this out as well. You do find values in between that make no sense. Somebody might be $5,200 on one, and not that expensive on DraftKings, so to speak. So there are differences, so to speak.
Yeah, so on Countermove, they should be exactly, if all things being equal, they should be half what they are on DraftKings, and that just doesn't work out. Well, Countermove doesn't adjust prices if someone backs out last minute and there's a replacement fighter. And so some guy who was a massive underdog in one fight, the fighter gets replaced, and now he's a huge favorite. Those don't get adjusted on Countermoves. They're
strange.
They're like free wins and salary cap relief right away. But in terms of a GPP or tournament team, I like to play multiple lineups, so I'll take, last week you nailed the big one. The big upset of the night, really, and you called it on this show. I bet on it. I had Barbarina, was that his name?
Yeah. Bam.
On every single team. But normally, I played 3 teams in my GPP. He was on one of them. Yakovlev, was he the other guy?
Yeah.
I had him on one of them. He won 2.
He was well priced as well.
Yeah, so I tried to mix a few upsets in because, listen, it's an upset. You don't just think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Even if you do think it's going to happen, you still have to acknowledge that it's not likely to happen. So mixing and matching some of the upsets across teams with safer players is a better GPP strategy. But again, we are just going to talk some cash games. But I will let people know I'm not overly familiar with the whole UFC or mixed martial arts scene. So every time I get a name wrong, you're going to hear, and I will hang my head in shame. Although, according to someone, you got one wrong last week.
Yeah, Alcantara. Maybe they pronounce it Alcantara. I don't know.
Isn't it Alcantara?
That's the thing. Tomato, as far as I'm concerned. But
right.
maybe I deserve a buzz on that one.
So, MMA, in terms of daily fantasy, all the points are scored by quick finishes. So that was almost the great thing about the Barbarina thing. It was a second-round finish, too. It was like, whoa!
A little takedown in the mix, some strikes. Love it.
I don't really care so much about that. If the match is going to go to a decision, that's when significant strikes and takedowns come into play. But if there are quick finishes, those are the guys you need to have on your team. So you look at this entire card, who is it that you see has the quickest finish?
Yeah, well, in terms of, once again, you want those finishes. You're looking at guys on the card that you think, okay, this person, may be able to get the finish. And Misha Cherkinov jumps up by large as that exact person. Now, he is the most expensive player that you can play. But yeah, Misha.
I thought it was like Misha Tate.
Well, you know what? Because his opponent's name's Alex, and I guess that one could go both ways
very
as well.
Ambiguous,
Misha versus Alex, I don't know.
I wasn't sure.
It's a unisex name.
I haven't looked at the graphic yet, so I don't know if it's a men's fight or a women's. So it's a men's fight.
Yeah,
This is good to know.
And they're both very large individuals, clocking into the light heavyweight division, which is 205 pounds. Misha Cherkinov, 6'3", originally from Latvia, but now lives in Toronto, Canada, trains out of Toronto, Canada. Super good dude. He is going to absolutely buzzsaw Alex Nicholson. And that's not necessarily indicative of how good Cherkinov is. He is good, but it's just style make fights. And this guy is a high-level degree in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a black belt. And against Alex Nicholson, who trains out of a UFC gym in Florida, who used to fight at 185 pounds, who has an amateur record of 4 wins and 7 losses. He's a dead man walking, Pat. He really is. The fight will hit the ground. I'm very confident in that. Cherkinov's a black belt in judo. He also won the junior nationals in wrestling. The fight is going to hit the ground. He's going to take Nicholson's back. He's going to choke him out with a rear naked choke. If he doesn't choke him out with a rear naked choke, he will transition to an armbar, and he will submit this guy. If it doesn't happen in the first, it's going to happen in the second. I'm very confident in that. And so he's a must-have.
He is a minus 850 favorite on the betting line.
That's the reason.
I haven't looked at every betting odd, but I assume that's by far the highest. The only one that even comes close is this Mickey Gall guy. He's minus 505.
Dangerous. I'd avoid Mickey Gall.
All right, so
Misha Cherkinov is good.
Well, how come you're avoiding Mickey Gall?
So Mickey Gall's the second most expensive guy in DraftKings, and the biggest thing here is that he's 1-0 in his professional career. Now, a lot of the times you'd be like, he's 1-0 and he's in the UFC. I mean, maybe it was a big win, maybe he's got a name. It's nothing like that. The UFC wants somebody to fight CM Punk. So they went on, they have a little reality show where they go to different places.
Is Mike Jackson CM Punk?
You would think so. Mike Jackson is Michael Jackson. The deal is if Mickey Gall wins, he gets to fight CM Punk. Now, Mickey Gall's not very good, but they set him up in a fight against a pro kickboxer, a Golden Gloves champion, who he's not known to have a ground game. And Mickey Gall is, at least on paper, is known to have a ground game. So the thought process is similar to Misha Churkinov, that he will get the fight to the ground, that he will choke him out. I'm not necessarily sold on that. Mike Jackson's not a scrub, certainly not as much of a scrub as people are putting him out to be. I think he's definitely got some skills, and I'm not sold on Mickey Gall whatsoever, not even a little bit. So minus 500, that's crazy. If it was near even, if it was minus 200 Mickey Gall, I might take a plug on it. If DK was given to me for 94, 9,800 tops, I might have a play on him, but no way. 10-9, no way. Minus 500, no way. Not happening.
$5,200 on Kountermove too. So let me ask you this. Is there value on Mike Jackson, whether it be on the betting line or $8,700 on DraftKings or $44 on Kountermove?
Yeah, no, 100%, because you're going to get an extreme good value on him, and no one's going to play this guy, mostly because they don't know who he is, mostly because his record, Pat, is 0-0. He's never even had a professional MMA fight, so it's very easy to write this guy off. Now, I'm not fully sold on him like I was for a guy like Brian Barberina, but that being said, Mike Jackson does have a degree of power. He's 6'2" for the welterweight division. It's fairly big. He's long, he's lanky, and as I mentioned, he's a former Golden Gloves champion in Texas. He's also a pro kickboxer with only 2 fights in kickboxing. But if you look at his last fight for the Legacy Kickboxing promotion, he knocks out his opponent. He drops his opponent 3 times before knocking him out. He's slick. He's got some decent hands, decent defensive head movement, and I really think he can pull it off. Now, as you mentioned, if you're going to play 3 different teams, have a punt team. Have a team that you're not really expecting to do much, and put Jackson on it. And if it does, man, it's sky's the limit for that team, no doubt. But buyer beware, he might just get taken down and grounded for 15 minutes.
Whenever there's a French name on the card, I would like to try to pronounce that one. So I'm going with Auvin Saint-Preux.
He's actually, Haitian, right? So I suppose...
He'd be French.
Yeah, I think he used to play for the University of Tennessee as a linebacker. This guy's pure athleticism.
He's 10-7 on DraftKings, 5-5 on Kountermove, but he's only a minus 360 on the betting line. I mean, it seems rather expensive for Kountermove.
Yeah, well, he's a very big boy, and he's has a certain degree of finishing ability. But once again, this is a guy that is 6'4", fights at the 205-pound division. He's branded, Pat, not a tattoo. He's physically branded. He is a one heck of a beast, very scary individual, and he's got a good fighting style. The only issue for me is that price, I need a finish.
You have to have a finish.
I'm not fully certain that he's going to be able to finish Feijao. Feijao's not great, but he's had success in the past against wrestlers that he can keep the fight standing and knock them out. He knocked out King Mo, who's a fantastic wrestler. He knocked out Yoel Romero, who's a fantastic wrestler. He has that ability. He tested positive for steroids back in the day, and he has not looked good since the steroid accusations. So it's almost he's kind of slipping downhill a little bit. But that's not to say he's not going to be in good shape. It's not to say that he can't turn it around. And also, he is quite durable. So I don't think Auvin Saint-Preux puts him away, and those are expensive prices. You need a finish.
You would prefer Roy Nelson at 10-2 to get a finish.
Yeah, most definitely. Actually, we'll get to it in a little bit, but a guy like Noah Lahat, he's around the same price range, and I would feel confident in him getting the finish. But Roy Nelson, absolutely. I see good value in him both on DraftKings and Kountermove. Kountermove just 5,000, 10-2 on DraftKings. And yeah, I mean, we speak about it all the time. Heavyweights have a degree that they can just put guys away. Roy Nelson, even more so. Now, if you look at Jared Rochelle, he's got 2 losses in his career. Both of them by knockout, and a bad knockout. And he's been dropped and he's been hurt a number of times. Timothy Johnson hurt him. In his first fight in the UFC, Walter Harris really hurt him. So, yeah, if you're going to get hit by Roy Nelson, it's not going to be a good time. He's got a little older, but to be honest with you, I think this plays out good for him. Keep the fight standing, stuff a couple takedowns, land that big old Roy boy haymaker, and end his night.
So, Noah Lahat?
Noah Lahat, Neo.
Versus Diego Rivas?
Yeah, Diego Rivas. Diego Rivas is from Chile. And,
Chile.
Yeah, Noah Lahat is Israeli. He fights in the Israeli army, so he only really fights once a year in the UFC.
Is his fighting style Krav Maga?
Yeah, well, he has like a background in Krav Maga, but no, he's not using it. He's certainly not
I think
grab your balls and twist them and get you in the eye.
But I think
it's an effective move, by the way.
I might be off on this, but I think when you join the Israeli army that you are trained in Krav Maga.
Well, isn't that what Krav Maga is the Israeli special forces self-defense system?
I think so.
You know what? If this is the streets and I need to kill this man before he kills me, I'd probably to specialize in that style as well. Because, your 1-2's great and all, but this, bite the guy and go for his eyes, deadly techniques, so to speak.
They might come in handy here in this fight?
Yeah, Noad Lahad's a no-gi world champion in jiu-jitsu. He moved to California. He stays at the American Kickboxing Academy, and he helps them with their jiu-jitsu. Now, he was the jiu-jitsu coach there, but because he's been training and traveling so many times back and forth, I don't really know that he's still the coach there, but what I do have to say about him is his jiu-jitsu's off the chart. Now you look at Diego Rivas. He's from Chile, and I think he's hurting here. He spent a little bit of time at King's MMA, but it wasn't enough, and he was predominantly using some stand-up striking when he was down there. So to be perfectly honest with you, I've seen in his last fight against Marco Antonio Rubio that this Mexican fighter was able to get him on the ground, this Mexican fighter was able to get on his back, and even though he didn't finish him and Rivas won that fight, if he gets in the same position with Noad Lahad, and I suspect he will, he's done. Now, I'm not going to lie. I wasn't able to afford him on DraftKings because he is expensive.
He's $10,600 on DraftKings. He's only 5'3" on Kountermove, which is exactly half.
Yeah, exactly.
They're just better values on Kountermove that you found?
Well, I could get him on Kountermove because I could move some things around and I could fit him into the lineup. With Cherkinov being $11,000, if I wanted Cherkinov, and let me tell you, I do want Cherkinov.
He's your must-have guy?
Exactly. And then when you compare, it's like, okay, well, Roy Nelson will probably get the finish too, and Noad Lahad's definitely going to get that finish. Okay, well, I'd rather Noad Lahad than Roy Nelson, but Roy Nelson's a lot cheaper than him. So if I could still get a finish and only pay 10-2 on it, I'm happy. I'm saving $400?
You're saving $400. And on DraftKings, with the way it's price this week, it's kind of tight. It's hard to. There's not a lot of good bottom guys, right?
Yeah.
There's no one in the $8,000 range you really like.
No, I mean the cheapest guy I think I picked up was $9,300 for KJ Noons. Dangerous fight once again, but $9,300. I think that's a good price, and I can justify that on him. If I take a guy like Noad Lahad, then I can't even afford Roy Nelson. And yes, I need to take someone who's in that $8,000 range. If you want Mike Jackson, this is perfect for you. Take Mike Jackson, and then you can afford Noad Lahad and Roy Nelson and Misha Cherkinov. But I'm not fully sold on him. It's a punt team, as I mentioned, and so I avoided it.
Do you think that Mike Jackson can hang around in this fight either way? Do you think it's a quick finish if he loses, or does he lose by decision after 3 rounds?
The thing is, I've watched a lot of tape on him, and I've seen, some positive things on Mike Jackson. The issue is I never seen him on his back. And that's a problem because Mickey Gall is going to want to take him down. And so if the fight stays standing, 100%. I think Mike Jackson not only finishes him if the whole fight stays standing.
He could possibly win it?
Yeah, he can win it. I believe him to be the better striker. The only issue is that when he got the phone call, he's a photographer for a local promotion in Texas.
Okay.
They called this promotion in Texas and were like, we need a guy with no experience to fight in the UFC.
So we need some guy to lose to this guy so he could lose to CM Punk.
100%.
That's how it's gonna work.
So this Mick Maynard guy, he owns the promotion. He's the promoter. He's like, yeah, I got a guy, Mike Jackson. He's a buddy of mine. He's a photographer.
He'll
Give
do
him
it.
a call. So they asked this Mike Jackson guy. They're like, do you want to fight in the UFC? He's like, y'all are trolling me. They're like, no, seriously. And it was a very interesting interview, but the whole time he's like, this fight makes no sense. I haven't had an MMA fight since 2012. I'm not very good. Why me? Why did I get selected? But at the same time, he never says, I think I'm going to lose. He wants to go in there and he wants to win, and I think he's got a good shot.
Get a paycheck, too.
Exactly. So the issue becomes, if you take Mike Jackson and he's able to go out there, keep the fight standing, he either wins a decision or maybe he finishes Mickey Gall late. That's great. If he loses, it's going to be a lot of cage stalling, or maybe he gets subbed really quick, and that's not good.
Is there a chance that, let's say it does go to decision, that the judges work against him in this case?
No, I'm not going to say so. I mean, Mickey Gall's from New Jersey, so it's not like he's a local Vegas guy.
I don't need any sort of localized anything. They just need this other guy to go on to fight CM Punk.
Yeah, but it's not like the UFC doesn't control things like that. I mean, there's a million better examples of, wow, we'd rather have this guy win because it pushes the envelope for us. And to be honest with you, I mean, if Mike Jackson wins, what's going to happen?
He'll fight CM Punk.
He's going to fight CM Punk. So there's really no big deal here.
Fair enough.
In fact, if I'm CM Punk, I'd rather fight the kickboxer with no ground game, who is a natural 55er fighting at 170, and I'm a natural 70 who can even fight as high as 85. It'd be a dream come true to fight him instead of Mickey Gall. But I'm not going to lie. Mickey Gall, I'm not sold on him, and those odds, ludicrous.
Let's get to the main event. Johnny Hendricks versus Stephen Thompson. I have heard of Johnny Hendricks. I have not heard of Stephen Thompson. The odds in this fight are -220. Johnny Hendricks is 10-4 on DraftKings, 5-5 on Kountermove. Why is he not appearing on any of your teams?
Johnny Hendricks.
Yeah.
Johnny Hendricks, the biggest issue for him, and it's funny you say you know Johnny Hendricks. I mean, yeah, I always look at that loop. There he is right there. There he is again. I don't know why you selected Johnny Hendricks in your loop.
You think I made this? Please.
No, but there's two clips, and they're both Johnny Hendricks. So.
Well, no, there's little ones up there, too. Is that him walking to the ring,
yeah,
too?
it's Weidman now, and I think you got, like, Donald Cerrone. But regardless, Johnny Hendricks, he's got the goods. A couple issues that are playing against him. One, in his last fight, he missed weight so bad that the fight never happened. He never hit the scale. His body shut down and he got sick. So he's got pictures online of him now, and he looks fantastic. But it's a tad case of buyer beware that you're like, is something gonna happen to him? I don't know. Second issue that we were running into is that the main event for this is supposed to be Cain Velasquez versus Fabricio Verdum in a 5-rounder. That fight's not on anymore, so now you got Thompson and Johnny Hendricks going up. That also it became a 5-rounder.
So they're not necessarily, they hadn't necessarily trained for a 5-round fight.
They were trained
so
for
he
a
might get
3-round
gassed.
fight. He might get gassed, and he has a history of gassing. The longer the fights goes, he just typically kind of gets tired.
Also, Pat Mayo, history of gas.
Gas. I noticed you put some weight on. I figured you're gassing.
Now I got some gas on the go.
Rolade, I think, helps for
And
that.
we are in a very enclosed space here, so watch yourself.
Why don't you get a Pepto-Bismol sponsorship with the Pat Mayo?
That should be good.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's more for heartburn.
I don't know what Pepto-Bismol does.
Didn't they have a song back in the day? Upset stomach? Yay,
Indigestion.
Pepto-Bismol.
It's for indigestion.
And diarrhea, apparently. At least
Diarrhea? I don't have diarrhea.
Not now, but you might.
It's true. Maybe I should preemptively strike against Pepto.
Yeah, exactly. And with Johnny Hendricks, I don't know that he doesn't need Pepto right now either. He might be in a situation where I just don't know all the details on him. Now, to be perfectly honest, I have him winning this fight. I really do. I think he has to use his wrestling in order to win the fight. The last time we seen him, Pat, put his wrestling to good use was against Matt Brown. Clearly wins the fight, and it was a horrendously bad fight. It was just really boring. Not much happened. He gets a takedown. He stays on top. I would assume he does want to knock out Stephen Thompson. But this fight could very well play out the exact same way as the Matt Brown fight did. A good shape Johnny Hendricks uses his wrestling, pushes him up against the cage, holds him down. If you like Stephen Thompson's kickboxing on another level. If you like Stephen Thompson, there is some value in him here for sure.
Stephen Thompson is $9,000 on DraftKings, and he's half that, $4,500 on Kountermove.
On Kountermove, he's $4,500. It's ludicrous, and I believe on the betting line he's like a plus 220. But
he's plus 180 right now.
Okay, every single day that line's getting closer to even. I don't know if there's something surfacing online because what I've seen it would favor Johnny Hendricks, but the line is most definitely going near even, and because it's trending that way, you can definitely get some value on him or DraftKings or Kountermove. My biggest problem is that if you talk to even the biggest Stephen Wonderboy Thompson supporter, I think even they would tell you he needs to knock this guy out or he's going to knock this guy out. Johnny Hendricks is not going to get knocked out. He's never been knocked out in his career. His chin is very durable. It always holds up. He himself has fought 5 rounds a couple of times, so he has that experience. I think everything just kind of plays in his favor, to be honest with you. So I didn't want to play it on DraftKings or Kountermove because we're looking for obvious finishes, and I didn't really see it.
Didn't like it either way.
Yeah, but if you're asking for a pick, I'm going to side with the former champ, Johnny Hendricks.
Yeah, so as a straight-up pick, but there's probably more value on Stephen Thompson. If you, again, wanted to play one of those out of 3 lineups, maybe throw him on one to save some salary cap.
You most definitely could.
Because no one's probably going to take him.
No, I think people will. I think people really like him. And if you watch him fight in the UFC,
does that mean I have to replace him in my loop if he wins?
If he wins. His last fight, he got the guy with a tornado kick in the head and KO'd him in the first round.
Oh, boy.
So he has that ability. And I think a lot of people are going to look at that and say, geez, this guy kicks a lot of people in the head. He's got wins over Robert Whittaker. He's got, decent wins in the division. He's beat Pat Cote, who's on a current run right now. He's got all the goods. But what they need to remember is that Johnny Hendricks arguably got robbed against George St. Pierre. I thought George won, but he most certainly arguably got robbed. Very close. And then his second fight was Robbie Lawler. He arguably got robbed. So take those 2 fights away. 2 extremely controversial decision losses that could have gone his way.
Against high-end guys.
Yeah, he hasn't lost a fight in a very, very long time. It's something like 8 or 9 fights and 4 or 5 years. So why start now? Because he had a bad weight cut the last time? He's got it figured out this time, Pat. He's got it figured out. So I want to put my hat on Johnny, so to speak, here.
DraftKings and Kountermove rosters and picks for Fight Night Hendricks versus Thompson. Cody, give me your DraftKings roster.
Okay, starting with DraftKings. Misha Cherkinov, $11,000. We already spoke about this. I mean, he's a finisher, and the way he matches up is just perfect. I think Alex Nicholson is in for a rough one. It could be a short one, so maybe it won't be that
And he's your
rough.
top play of the night. Like, you're starting a roster, you're starting it with him.
Yeah, because even though he's expensive, we've talked about this in certain situations.
There's a lot of guys that are expensive.
Anthony Johnson last week was expensive, but we knew what we'd get out of him, and he got the amount of points that we needed him to get. And this is a very similar situation here. Roy Nelson, 10,200. I have been a little off on heavyweights in the past. I got the Josh Barnett one wrong. But honestly, Jared Rosholt needs to get this fight to the ground, and Roy Nelson's small. He's not small, but he's short and compact. He's hard to get to the ground. If you do get him to the ground, he's got a BJJ black belt under Renzo Gracie. He's going to get back up. And when he does get back up, he's going to land one of those hot tamales and put Jared Rosholt out. So 10,200, I like it. Artem Lobov, $9,800. This guy's Conor McGregor's boy, despite the fact that he's Russian. He's a Russian-Irishman.
Okay.
Exactly. So all
Didn't
I can
know
tell
that was
you,
a thing.
Yeah,
But
I know.
sure.
But think about it. Tough. This guy is durable. He's got 11 pro wins. He's got 11 pro losses, and he's got a draw. But that's the problem. This guy will fight anybody, anytime, anywhere, and that's why he's got all these losses. The UFC, they like McGregor. They want to keep him happy.
To give his buddy a softie here?
Yeah, not necessarily a softie, but Alex White is tailor-made for a guy like Lobov. He's 6 foot, so he's got some size on him, but he's going to stand right in front of Lobov, and he's going to exchange punches. And he got knocked out 2 fights ago, first knockout loss of his career, but I like Alex White. He has a good story. I think Lobov's going to completely turn the lights out on him. Derek Lewis, $9,700. Let me ask you this. The guy's name's the Black Beast. Do you really want to bet against the guy
I do not.
named the Black Beast? Absolutely not. Speaking of guys that have knocked out Jared Rosholt, the guy that Roy Nelson's fought, Derek Lewis is that guy.
So this is a heavyweight fight too?
He is massive. He's heavyweight. He's done some time in prison. He is hard as the Rock, and he is literally coming out
Hard
to get
as
himself.
a rock or hard as the rock?
The Rock, like your buddy from Newfoundland there.
Oh, that kind of rock.
He got it tattooed. You know he's hard.
That's true.
Derek Lewis is, honestly, I can't say enough good things about him. The only issue is he tends to gas, and his ground game's not great. Grabowski wants to take him to the ground, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think the fight hits the ground. And if it doesn't hit the ground,
He's going to win in 10 seconds sort of thing.
once again, Grabowski's never been knocked out, so I hate saying, he'll knock him out when the guy's never been, previously finished, but yeah, he got choked out in a minute and a half 2 fights ago. He's a big Polish guy. He's 35 years old. Paul Shaughnessy met him at a casino, Casino Rama one time, and nobody even knew who he was. Derek Lewis has got a new training camp. His striking's looking real good. He just got to keep the fight standing, and if he does, he's either going to give this guy his first knockout loss, or he's going to win this fight, gas him out, win the fight.
All right, so where does your Kountermove team differ?
Kountermove team differs with, so on the first team, I have KJ Noons on DraftKings for $9,300. Mostly because I need a guy that's cheap. I basically only have $9,300 left. But that all aside, I think KJ Noons matches up good with Josh Berkman. He can get the win.
He doesn't make your Kountermove team, though.
No, on Kountermove, we got Chirkinov, Nelson, Lobov, Lewis. 4 guys that can most definitely get that finish. And I can afford Lahad on that team, too.
Ooh.
So, in terms of GPP and Kountermove, you're not going to get a massive, massive pool of people. But if Chirkinov goes out and finishes, Nelson goes out and finishes, Lobov goes out and finishes, Lewis goes out and finishes, this is one of the few teams that I could safely say all 5 guys have a damn good shot of finishing. When I look at my DraftKings team, KJ Noons,
Maybe.
but, as long as he gets the win, I'm a happy man.
This is true.
It's hard to spot a finish, and with all 5 of those guys, they've proven. Lobov knocked out 3 guys in like a week, in 2 weeks, earlier last year, I should say. He's got the goods, and I like it. There's no money left over. I hate that because
It's okay,
other
though.
people will figure the team out.
Put it this way. If you get 5 wins, 5 finishes, you're going to be fine.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't matter who else has your team.
Rolling.
Yeah, especially in cash teams. It doesn't matter about ownership percentage or anything like that. Cody Saftik. Check him out on the Fight Network, on the Bookie Beatdown, along with Poggy Paul Shaughnessy.
Poggy Paul.
And Paul will actually be on the show tomorrow talking Fantasy Bachelor.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
that's right, MMA fans. Paul Shaughnessy from Bookie Beatdown talks about Fantasy The Bachelor. Yes, the reality show The Bachelor. And you know what? He's pretty damn good at it, too. Pat Mayo, you can follow me at the PME on Twitter. And remember, subscribe to the Pat Mayo Hour on YouTube and iTunes under the Pat Mayo Hour. I'm Pat Mayo, and I'll see you next time.